Well, Joe Biden, the man who is currently the front runner in the Democratic race for president, finally released his climate change plan on Tuesday of this week. And unfortunately, Joe Biden has fallen back into his old habits, the old habits that essentially helped to derail his 1988 presidential campaign. And that is plagiarism. Because apparently Joe Biden and his team plagiarized the man's own climate plan. Here's what they did. They went around to letters that environmental groups had sent to Congress. They went to environmental organizations' websites, saw their plans and things that the country needs to do in order to, save the planet. And Joe Biden and his team thought, hey, that's great. Can you just copy and paste that into our own document and we can just call it a day and that's my plan? Great. And that's what they did. And now they've been caught doing it. So Joe Biden says, hey, whoa, none of this was intentional, right? It was totally an accident. We were just trying to get things done. And we'll add the citations back into our little 22-page plan, so don't worry about it. But here's the thing, Joe. This is now officially a pattern of behavior. This now fits into the category of who you are as a person. Because you did it in 1988. You plagiarized a speech from a UK politician running against Margaret Thatcher. And in that speech, you said you were the first member of your family to graduate from college. And you said that because that's what the UK politician said. Only it turns out a lot of people in your family had already graduated from college. You basically took another person's life story and tried to sell it as your own. And then once you got busted for that, you kind of went away and you dropped out of the race. And that was 31 years ago. And here you are today doing the exact same thing. This tells us, first of all, as I just pointed out, that this is clearly who you are as a person. And two, it tells us that you're not taking the issue of climate change seriously whatsoever. And that's actually the more disappointing part here. Because if you had a plan, if you had an idea in your head, you'd have put it on paper. But you didn't. But you understand that the public wants to see a plan. Because on the same day you plagiarized from everybody else, Elizabeth Warren unveiled probably the most ambitious plan put forth by a presidential candidate ever. And it happened to be about climate change. So you said, oh crap, is that due today? Can I copy off somebody else? And that's what you did. You didn't put any thought into it. You didn't have enough concern to say, you know what, before we rush this out and take other people's work, how about we sit down and talk about the problem and come up with solutions and act like we care for 1 second. But Joe Biden wasn't even able to do that. Joe Biden's a non-starter, right? I know he's at the top of the pack, but he's lost 7 points in just the last few weeks since he announced. His numbers are falling, other people are rising, and the other people who are rising are doing so because they have plans. And they're not stealing their plans from everybody else who's ever talked about the issue. Joe Biden is a phony. And his non-stop instances of plagiarism prove that. He doesn't have any ideas. He doesn't have anything to say. But I think American voters need to say to him, Joe, you've been running for president for 31 years now. It's time to hang it up, pack it up, and go and retire and possibly take up knitting or whatever the hell it is you want to do that doesn't involve you being in politics ever again. Thanks for watching, everybody. And don't forget, if you like what you see here, like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. And now you can also become a member of Ring of Fire and get exclusive early access to certain Ring of Fire videos all throughout the week. Just click on the little join button right below the video.